Hello and welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. These are my goats. They're going to join us for our conversation today because they really like eating the pea shells. Now, you'll see it said a lot about homesteading, that this is the slow way of life. And some of you who are, into homesteading understand what that means, but I understand why there's some confusion about that on social media, because what you see a lot of on social media is really the edited versions of these lifestyles, and it can seem like it's really fast-paced. There's a lot of fast editing. I mean, truthfully, there is a lot of work that goes into it, and I think maybe some people misconstrue slow with less work, and that's not the case. And really, some people even say that the work is unnecessary. And I guess it depends on your outlook and what your goals are. It could seem unnecessary, I get it. But I think sometimes these people are thinking in just monetary terms. They see you breaking your back for a whole summer and spending a lot of time on one thing just to get, I don't know, like a $5 quart of peas. And is that worth it? And I think if you only think about it monetarily, I guess most of the time, no, it's not worth it. Everybody hears about the $500 tomato that you finally get to harvest after setting up a raised bed garden. That is real life. These things do pay for themselves as far as the money goes. Over time, there is an upfront investment a lot of the times, not every time, but a lot of the times. But that's not the full picture. And so let's just get into it. Now, let's just take these big box of peas, for example. This is a lot of peas. These are still in the shell, and really when it comes down to it, and these are all dried, it will probably end up being probably just a quart worth of peas. Now, they do triple in size when it comes to cooking them, so it'd be like three quarts of cooked peas, but still, you can buy that very inexpensively at the grocery store. Now, this here is just one of many harvests that we're going to get, or that we have gotten, but still. And there are fancy pea shellers that you can buy where you can put them straight through the sheller and turn a crank handle and it shells the peas for you, and that's very valid. I just happen to not be able to harvest all of mine at the same growth stage. I've got some that are greener, like this one's a little bit more yellow, and then I have some that are drier. These are not as ideal to put through a pea sheller, and so I don't find that the pea sheller contraption is really worth the price for me, so I just sit here and hand shell them. Now, most of the time my husband is sitting here with me shelling peas, and we're having good conversation over the task. And this right here, I think, is what a lot of homesteaders mean by slow. This is slow food. My husband just left with the kids to go to the grocery store, and I happen to know that at that grocery store you can get about a quart of black-eyed peas for around $5. And obviously that's faster, just going to the store and spending, a minimal amount of money on, nutritional food that's grown locally. But even when a pea sheller is involved, it's still slow. The entire process is slow. The ground that these peas were grown in needed to be tended to. It needed to be amended. Actually, these particular peas were grown in grow bags. So I set up the grow bags and filled them with soil and set up the irrigation. And then I planted the peas and tended to them. In early season, we have to protect them from things like birds especially, but also rodents and roly-polies, things like that want to take the harvest away from you. And then as they grow, the plants are tended and watered, and if they happen to need any kind of supplemental nutrition, they are given that. We're tending to them, and it's still taking time for these things to come to fruition, all while the peas at the store are still sitting there, waiting to be purchased. So let's switch gears for a little bit, and I'm really sorry for the whiplash. I know a lot of people like to watch my videos with their children. Pre-watch this first before you decide to show it to them. This is a conversation that I would have with my kids, but I want everybody to use their own discretion when it comes to that kind of a thing. The world that we're living in right now is a lot. It's a lot. I think no matter where you live, what you believe, what side of the political aisle you may be on, it's a lot right now. The information that we have access to at this point in our lives and in society is insane. Now, I don't necessarily think that there's more contention or more bad things happening now than 50 years ago. I just think that we feel like it is because we have full access to literally everything. Anything you want to know about that's going on in the world, you can find out about it in a blink. Sometimes even when you're not looking for it, these things just smack you in the face. At any given moment, we can open up our phones and open up any kind of app and just be like quite literally assaulted by the things that we're shown. The algorithm decides what's popular and what it should push in front of us, and sometimes it is things that we never should have to see in our lifetimes. You could scroll on Facebook for 10 minutes and be assaulted by the most horrific headlines and literal slowed down videos of people being killed. And if you keep scrolling, you'll find more of the same, maybe a different traumatic headline or situation. And all of this real life horror is there being interspersed between, I don't know, photos of your nephew as a newborn or an advertisement for healthy ramen noodles. And the juxtaposition of that, it cannot be good for our mental health. Like, seeing things that we were never meant to really see is enough for our brains, but then to throw it in there with kind of, I don't know, just meaningless and mundane things, it desensitizes you to what is really happening and what's really going on and what these things really actually mean. Our brains were not designed to go through all of that. It's a lot of whiplash. So I'm going to be turning 38 this fall in November, and that is not old by any means, but I can remember a time before the internet. I grew up before the internet. When I got the internet, I don't know, there really wasn't much to do on it. There definitely wasn't the kind of newsreel and things that we are seeing now. Now, we had the TV, of course, but even that, I mean, the TV, the news segment came on at a certain time of day and then it was gone. You didn't really have full access to the news. At least we didn't in my household. We probably had 30 channels that we could flick through at any given time. And if there wasn't anything interesting to watch, you had to wait until the next, time segment came around where something else could be coming on that you might maybe want to watch. But frequently we just, put the remote down and found something else to do because the option just wasn't there. You didn't have the option to really be entertained by whatever you want. We entertained ourselves with the world, with society, and it was, to me it was a better time. I think every generation says that. Free and unrestricted access to all people and all things and all situations at all times. It sounds kind of good on the surface. Now that I said that out loud, it really doesn't. It sounds overwhelming, and that's because it is. The reality is we just weren't meant for that. We were not designed for that. Our brains were not wired to handle that kind of information and basically a constant trauma. I mean, your brain sees things and it's hard. I think we as people can conceptualize okay, this is happening somewhere else and across the world, but our bodies react to these traumas in a very similar way as if we were there experiencing these things ourselves. And it's a lot. It's actually too much, but we've become, I guess, kind of numb to it over time, and it's not a good thing. It's all just moving way too fast. It's too much information way too fast. And the crazy thing is that a lot of us, we know this, but it's also addicting. Not just the scrolling, but me personally, I'll get FOMO. If something is going on and I happen to learn about it, even though maybe I didn't want to know about it at the time, it just happened to come into my news feed or whatever, I do have some sense of FOMO where I feel like I need a resolution, so I need to kind of hang around and figure out what happens next. I need to be looking for an update. I can fall into that spiral very easily, and I have recently. And when I'm online looking for these updates and things, of course that's not the only thing the algorithm is feeding up to me. It's feeding me 500 other things that I need to think about and worry about and wonder about, and it's draining and it's exhausting. Even if you're scrolling the internet while sitting in a chair and you're not doing actual physical work, mental exhaustion is so real. And these kinds of things they're mentally exhausting, at least for me. So back to these peas. Slow living is a choice. There's many different ways that slow living can be achieved. You don't have to have a homestead to figure out how to slow down, but homesteads can make it very easy. They kind of force you to slow down at times, but still it's a choice. And I'm not saying that it's an easy choice to make, because it's not. There's something to be said about the quick dopamine hit that you can get from scrolling the internet and finding something happy and something lovely and whatever. And that does have value. I'm not going to say that it doesn't. I love to scroll Instagram in the evenings because my Instagram is full of just like cat videos and millennial nostalgia things. I really enjoy it. I find a lot of enjoyment in that space, at least right now. But again, that's fast. That happens very quickly. That's a fast hit of dopamine. We're talking about slow here and the value of slow. Girl, I'm trying to go faster. You're eating faster than I can show. If any of you have tried to do a social media fast, you know how hard that first day is. Because it's habit. You want to pick up your phone and scroll and figure out what's going on, and I don't know what it is about our brains that just kind of need that, but it's very hard to break that. And so a slow and intentional way of living is hard, and it's a minute by minute choice. Some days you have to choose to slow down and to not feed into that FOMO. But once you break through that cycle, that's really hard to get through, and you find the peace that slowness brings. I don't know about you, but I'll protect this with everything I have. This has infinitely more value to me, just to my soul, to everything in my being. So almost a decade ago now, I was in therapy, and I won't discuss why, but the situation caused really intense PTSD. PTSD was something I didn't understand until I experienced it and was told that that's what I was experiencing. For me, it looked like a small trigger. Like, I could be triggered by any number of things. At this particular time in my life, I couldn't even listen to music that had lyrics because it didn't matter. It did not matter what the song was. Something in it would cause me to spiral into a very deep, dark place. And like, spiral is the best way I can think to describe it, because it just took over my mind. I couldn't think about anything else. I couldn't focus on anything else. I just had images going through my head and emotions and feelings, and it really brought me back to the place where I was traumatized. It was horrific. And those spells, those trauma spells, those PTSD spells would ruin me for the whole day. Like, even if I could break myself out of it, I was tired, exhausted. It was awful. Sometimes it would ruin me for a day, sometimes it would be a few days. And my therapist at the time gave me some tools that I use to this day for grounding. And I know a lot of us think about grounding as, walking outside barefoot, and that is a version of grounding. But what my therapist was talking about was bringing me out of that spiral, out of the place where my mind was, and back into the present, back to where I physically was, where I was safe, and where things were good, and where I had actually physically moved past the trauma that I was in. I didn't have to live there, but my brain didn't know that. And so I had to consciously choose to not allow myself to be there. And these tools were very helpful. I can't remember the exact statistic, but I was watching something once, and it was talking about how the majority of our time throughout the day is spent with our minds existing in places other than where our feet are. So we're here, right? We are physically here. I'm not saying that we're, elsewhere, but our minds through the internet frequently are in many other places. Sometimes many different places, experiencing many different things minute by minute throughout the day, very rapid succession. And because of this, we're rarely getting the full experience of our life as it is right now, where we are right now. And sometimes that's fine. Like, it is fine to take a breather, take a vacation from our current situation. I'm not saying that that's bad. Just like me scrolling the cat videos on Instagram at night. That can be a good thing, it can. But to spend the majority of our time not experiencing our life as it is right now, where we are right now, it's not good for us. So to slow down from this cycle and come back to the present, my therapist, it sounded stupid at the time. She told me to look around the room in the space that I was right then. It could be the room, it could be outside. And physically say out loud 3 things that I could see, 3 things that I could hear, and 3 things that I could touch. And what that does is kind of train your mind to come out of wherever it is into the physical reality that is your reality right here. Something about this slows down our nervous system and brings it back to regularity. And like I said, once you're there, you'll do everything to protect that. And so it's worth knowing how to get back there when life inevitably spirals you out of that space. Now, in the beginning of my therapy and the trauma that I was dealing with, that didn't always work, unfortunately. And so I had this, it was a necklace made out of all kinds of different gemstones. It was a lot of colors. It was rainbow colored. And she told me, and this worked very well as well, to run my fingers along the beads and count them. And even say the colors out loud until I forced my mind out of that dark space. And it did work. I felt crazy. Okay, I felt crazy anyway, all right? But that really did work. So we've had this farm for 6 years now. And this place has brought me an immense amount of healing. And I think it's just the lifestyle. There's a lot about homesteading that forces you to slow down. It forces you back into regulation. There's a lot out in the world tempting us to do and think otherwise. And when you have going on as much as we have going on here, yes, it seems like a lot. But what you guys get to see a lot of the time is an edited version. This is really what it's like a lot of the time. This is how we've been talking for 32 minutes. And this is all. That's the dent that I've made in our pea shelling. And it seems crazy and like it wouldn't be worth it, but my goodness, the therapy of this is absolutely worth it. This kind of thing forces me into a state of mind that I feel like is more of the place where I was designed to be. Not the chaos that the internet has really kind of, I guess, forced us all to try to experience all at the same time. I had a friend over one time. This was probably 2 years ago at this point, and she lives in the city and she's used to a faster paced lifestyle, and she had a lot of questions about the farm and whether it was worth it. And I had sat with her just like this one evening with the goats, and we were just sitting here watching them and chatting, and she seemed a little bit restless, and she said, "Heather, is this what you do?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, this is it. This is what I do." And during her trip here, she had seen, you know, all the different things that we were growing in the greenhouse and all that, and she said, "Is it worth it?" And I think she was thinking monetarily, like we talked about, like a lot of people do. The first thing they think about is, how can I cut down on the grocery bill? And that's a valid concern. That's something that I think a lot of people are thinking about, trying to impact their grocery bill, and that's there. Don't let me tell you that it's not. It is. It can be once you get past some of the investment phases of things, but it's definitely bigger than that. So basically, value is subjective. It depends on the person experiencing the thing. I could call Levi right now and ask him to pick me up a quart of those black-eyed peas that they have in the store. But for me, it's more than that. It's more than the potential cost saving at the grocery store. It's even more than just knowing what the food is on my plate, what went into it. This act of intention has had immense value in my life, in forcing me to slow down, to take it all in. There's a gratitude that comes along with it that I feel like I could have never purchased. Like, how do you purchase gratitude? You don't. I think gratitude is something that we are taught, but it's also something that comes with experiencing things that are worthy of that gratitude. When I think about slow food, it's this, but also the fact that I just bred a few of our goats for spring kidding. It's gonna take 5 months for those babies to get here, and then I finally get to milk them. And when I can save up 7 gallons of milk in my fridge, then I can make cheese. One of my favorite cheeses that we've made lately is a stirred curd cheddar. And that stirred curd cheddar has to age for 3 to 6 months before we can eat it. Now I have a stash of cheese in my cheese cave that we've built up, so there's cheeses to eat while we're waiting for the stirred curd cheddar of 2026 to finally ripen. But that's the slowness that we're talking about. It's not necessarily that every single day is just, you know, lazing around or whatever. Like, it is really, really hard work, but it's hard work that is chosen for the benefit of slowing down and emotionally regulating. I think maybe people don't even realize that that's happening, but at least for me, it totally is. And as far as the YouTube channel goes too, my choice to grow beans instead of buy them at the store hasn't only taught others how to grow their own food, there's a lot of value in that, but also a lot of people, a lot of you have come into my inbox letting me know how paying the feral bean tax has meant the world to you and just brightened your day. And I think that in and of itself is a good illustration to show that it's more than just about growing beans. Can't remember if it was last December or the December before that, but I did one of my Vlogmas videos about emotional regulation and little monotonous tasks like this, and how you don't have to have a homestead in order to find peace. And I will link that down in the description box and in the pinned comment if you missed it.